life. It's so precious and it's so delicate.
Love. Without love, you don't have either of the other two.
Leadership, they flow out you.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the L3 Perspective. As you know, my name is Glenn Davis. I am with my guy, Cameron Macias.
What's up, Coach Cam, baby?
And again, we want to welcome you guys back to the L3 Perspective. Obviously, these are conversations where we talk about three very important topics: life, love, and leadership. Cam, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm good, man. It wasn't raining, but it was like overcast until the end of the day, and then it was like all sunny and stuff. So I'm cool with that. And then my 5 kids running rampant around my house. That's always fun.
I feel you, man. I feel you 100%. I feel you 100%. So it's been a interesting day for you.
Yeah, just busy. Like Mondays is usually one of my days that's like a little bit more relaxed, but like went to the Social Security office so we get the wife's documents updated. That wasn't too bad. But then as soon right after that we had some calls for our business stuff. Then I came home immediately, had some other calls to hop on, some work to do. Then I had like a medical appointment, and then I came back and I had another appointment. And like even Net was like, aren't Mondays normally like your chiller days? And I was like, yeah, but it would just be like that sometimes.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my guys. I was like, man, because I had to drive out to Oakland today, and I was like, I will not be setting up any medical appointments on a Monday. Because Mondays is normally.
I was gonna say that you were a brave soul for that.
Yeah, never again.
Man, well, you made it real quick. That's all that counts.
Yes, for sure. Before we dive in, man, talk to the people real quick, like love and all that.
All right, y'all. Hey, so as you guys already know, the way we operate, and if you don't, you about to get it. Like, love, share. Tell us what you do like. Tell us what you don't like. At the end of the day, we do this podcast for you guys. Okay, so your feedback is honestly necessary for this show to be the best that it possibly can. And for those of you who have given us feedback and told us whether you liked it or you didn't, we truly appreciate all of it because we want this to be the best show that it can be, and without y'all, it ain't nothing. So, yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So, I had I just mentioned the drive to Oakland, man, and it's not too often I get to be in a car by myself.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, being in the car by myself was kind of just deep thought, listening to audiobooks and more deep thoughts. And so, I wanted to bring something to the table. This was a quote that I came across years ago. And as I was sitting down, just kind of thinking about life, right? Talking about life, love, leadership. As I was thinking about life, the quote was, desires dictate our priorities. Priorities shape our choices.
Okay.
And choices determine our actions. And so I want that to be the framework as we gear up to kind of connect. Again, desires dictate our priorities. Priorities shape our choices, and choices determine our actions. And so as you're letting that kind of marinate, right? I'm gonna kind of give more of the framework of that, right? Because as I was kind of driving and I was thinking, it took me back to when I was military. I used to send out I used to call them morning nuggets.
Okay.
To the teams I used to lead, right? So
right.
I would every few days I would email something called a morning nugget, and I would kind of send that out just to kind of get people's wheels turning, right?
We should bring that back, by the way. I want morning nuggets from now on.
I got you, brother. I got you. But I was thinking about that, and I remember writing that quote in one of my morning nuggets, right?
Yeah.
And so when I thought about that, I was like, what connected me to that thought back then, right? And so obviously talking about life, we know that nothing in life is neutral, right? So everything either brings you closer to or keeps you away from the person that you desire to be, or obviously we talk often about goals, or the goals that you're trying to work towards, right? So, and one of the things that we often talk about is that we can't get back is time, right? And so whatever, or really whenever you give your time to something that is not moving you forward towards accomplishing you fill in the blank,
Yeah.
it's kind of pulling you away from it, right? And so, obviously, uh, since time never stands still,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not moving forward,
Yeah.
you're falling behind.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Let's unpack that a little bit.
So first of all, that takes me back to the quote that runs my whole business, which if you're not moving forward as a leader, you're moving backwards. Or if you're not moving forward as a learner, you're moving backwards as a leader.
Yeah.
And so first one is what is it? Desires dictate our priorities.
Yep.
That's legit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, so I was talking to somebody earlier about that statement, but obviously in a different way. And ultimately, it's so hard for a lot of people to understand, even if it's like a future desire.
Right.
So, for instance, like a lot of people have desires, but because that desire is so far built into the future, they don't understand the necessity of their actions today to meet that desire. But because that desire is in the future, they have other right now desires that will prevent them from getting to the future one because they're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So like we get wrapped up so much in the day to day. I need to get this done right now, or I have this, like I was telling you the other day is, with my, my work, some of it had stacked up a little bit.
Right.
And no matter how productive I tried to be, that was like looming over me, like in the back of my head. And so I finally got it caught up on it. And it was like these shackles were free. And all of a sudden I could focus on like everything. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that can be really hard, especially depending on what situation you're in too, is, actions and choices that are made can be really convoluted based off your situation. And that's where you hear the phrase like, well, I had good intentions, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, I try and think, like we talked about in the last episode, like ROIs, right? Like what are the ROIs of what we're doing? And when you're talking about desires, which turn into priorities, like a lot of people think that things are priorities and they're really not.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're actually desire.
Right. And there's a huge difference between a desire and a priority.
Correct.
Right. I think that because we drive so much off of our emotions, what we say, like you mentioned, what we say is a priority is more just a desire.
Facts.
And which kind of ties into the second piece of that, when you establish your priorities, your priorities will shape your choices.
Yep.
Right? Like if I know, if I say that family is a priority to me, the choices that I make should align up with that priority, right?
Correct.
Or said priority. And so, versus the desire, if I say, oh, I want to, I desire this in life.
Yeah.
It's on the opposite end.
Mm-hmm. You can get wrapped up in that stuff though.
Yeah,
like
100%. That's why I wanted to bring it to the table.
So for instance, like I have no problem waking up early. Like, my mom always says, I don't know where you got your early riser stuff from because that is shame me.
Right.
However, I find that I also like laying in bed with my wife. And so I will like not get up early for a week's time because I want to lay in bed, instead of getting up. And there's a choice that's made there because that's 2 hours of productivity potentially that I have lost out on. However, I also am fortunate enough to control my schedule.
Right.
So I know that if I make that choice to lay down with her in the morning instead of getting up and doing stuff, that a priority of me is taking care of my family. I've spent that time with her, and realistically, I can make up that 2 hours later because I'm in the house by myself anyways.
Right.
So, a lot of people, they wake up early because they're like, that's the only time I get to myself. Well, that's not the case for me. So I have to like be, real about that situation. And so, however, there are days where I said I was going to get stuff done, and instead I sat on the couch and watched TV with my wife because I'm like, I like doing this too. So there's a tit for tat, right? Is you know, a lot of people I think don't meet goals and they don't take action because of almost like this like fall on the sword attitude for certain things.
Mm.
Like, oh, I didn't do it because I was too busy being a family man, or I was too busy doing this, or, you know, and it's like, nah, bro, you just needed a little bit more time management, a little bit more communication, and a little bit more priority to what you're actually trying to do. But maybe it wasn't
Essential
for you,
ingredients.
huh?
I said the essential ingredients.
A little sprinkle. Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, you know, at the same time, like we talk about, is success means something else to someone, everybody as well. So it's also like that's why I don't bug people. Like, I'm like, oh, what do you mean you don't want, like, what do you mean you don't want to be rich, or you don't want all the money in the world?
Hmm.
Some people don't want that, and that's like
Yes.
super okay. And if I'm being honest, I don't want all the money in the world. Like, I want enough money where my family's comfortable and, you know, generations to come are good to go. But like, I don't need to be
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, bro. Like, and so, but you know, what is it? Someone commented on a post I made the other day where they were saying like they met some hippies that were like just road tripping it through, you know, the Europe or something like that, and they just would work odd jobs, and like they were like the happiest people in the world. And I'm like, hey man, like live in what success is for you, right?
Yeah.
Don't get, because I mean, I think that's what happens with a lot of people is they get tied up into what society tells them success is, and then what they thought were priorities aren't,
Yeah.
and what they thought would make them happy doesn't. So,
Yeah.
soapbox over.
I appreciate it, man. So it's funny. I always can kind of, you know, just because of the way my brain works, I can always follow you all over, right?
Yeah, I'm
always,
over
always circle back.
If I
But
had
no,
life
like,
that would never happen.
yeah. But that was kind of like what was on my heart, you know, as I was driving back from Oakland. You know, like I said, I just kind of tap back into that because I feel like, you know, far too often we talk about priorities, but it's not enough where we think about the choices that we make and ask ourselves, are the choices that we're making day to day aligning up with our priorities, or with the thing we say our priorities are, right?
For sure.
And just like you mentioned, like you threw the word choice out, right? I have the choice to lay in the bed with my wife, or I have the choice to do X, Y, and Z.
I mean, it's not really a choice. I get beat up, but
right.
she's
But
sitting right
the
here. Don't tell her.
choice, like you mentioned, the choices, they determine our actions, and so
Yeah.
all of that is connected, man. So I wanted to just throw that in because, like I said, I was on the road just kind of just thinking about life overall, and
Yeah.
thinking about, hey, are the choices that I'm making reflecting the direction that, you know, that I say that I want to go, right? The other day, Tegan and I were, or just yesterday, Tegan and I were just talking about, like, realistically, like, what amount of money do we see us making, right?
Yeah.
Bringing in annually, monthly, etc., right? So we had a very, very deep conversation, like based off of,
Yeah.
like, not just throwing numbers on the board, like
Yeah.
realistically closing out 2023, like what do we see our numbers looking at?
Mm-hmm.
And just
$1
to kind of break that down.
million.
Right. You know, and the conversation tied into, because, like, you know, we're givers, right? We want to be able to bless other people
Facts.
financially, right? And so that's kind of what started the conversation. And I think that conversation, driving back from Oakland, from thinking about the conversation from last night, I was just like, it's like I said, it just all tied back into this.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, like, kind of how I was talking about, you know, sometimes we may think we're living in priority when we're really living in desire and you know, being I don't want to say manipulated, but, you know, like the thing, you know, like the things that we think we want is this society telling, you know, things like that.
Right. Yeah.
What's the point in your life where that's happened to you? Because I think in general, like, so everyone sees like Glenn and Cam now, right? And I love, like, I think, like, we talk about our past, and like every time we talk, I get like a little bit more about like OG money, and so and vice versa, right? And I love it because not that I didn't think you were human, but you know, you're very poised you know, and how you interact with the world. And honestly, I can say that that's one of the things that I've picked up from you, and I really enjoy about like learning from you as well. But you know, obviously, to get to that point, things happen. You know, you learn lessons along the way, and so like, what is one of those times where like you thought you were living in like a truth or a priority, in reality it was a desire, and it wasn't even maybe your desire?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I think it's well, number one, you're right. Like the Glenn I am today was not the Glenn I was yesterday. So that's number one. But I feel like even now, so kind of going back 2 decades, like I was like, man, I'm not where I want to be at. Right. Like I'm
Yeah.
doing the things that I think I'm making a priority, but they're really just a desire. And I think that really every single chapter, including the current chapter that I'm in today,
Yeah.
it's the same thought. And I think that that's because like I'm not comfortable in a good way, right? Like I'm not comfortable. Like I haven't achieved nowhere near what I want to achieve before my clock runs out, right? And granted, the one thing I can control is the time on the clock. But I think that in this current chapter, because like it's a completely different chapter than what it was 20 years ago, because the 20 years it was all military, and so you know, I guess kind of to answer your question, I'm still living in it, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm still trying to not just figure out, but I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. Like no kidding, every single day. Because I feel like if I can do that, and I can, my kids can see that example.
Yeah.
Regardless of when my clock runs out.
Yeah.
They know that I was in a consistent pursuit of striving for excellence. Right, just being the best version of myself, being the best father, being the best, because they know I'm not. If anyone in this world know I'm not perfect, it's my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And I was reminded of that today.
Oh, every day we get reminded.
We do.
That's a thankless parenthood, bro.
It is. But I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that I'm still in the midst of that that storm. That's a blessing. If that makes any sense at all.
So it made sense. You didn't answer my question.
All right, let's bring it.
But I'm gonna rephrase the question.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't phrase it right. What is a time where you thought something was a priority and you realized it wasn't? So you had put all this energy towards something, and then you were like, that's not what I even really wanted, or like, this ain't even the priority no more.
Man, that's a good question.
That's the after hour questions.
It's a good question, because the first thought that comes into my mind is when I first jumped into the financial industry.
Okay.
But I'm still currently in it. But I say that because there was a lot of I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but like I feel like in that season, like I almost lost myself because I was chasing this ever moving carrot that was just like really not there. And so
maybe that's a good point, is like, maybe, you know, so obviously you're still in the financial industry, so that goal of being in it didn't necessarily change, but like maybe your vision of where it was going or how it was going, obviously you're like, oh wait, no, this is not where it's going or how I want it to go. Yeah,
100%, because like I feel like in that time, so to kind of answer your question as far as time wise, 2.5, 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like just a circle, just running in a circle. And so I had to, in the midst of that running in a circle, life happened.
Yeah.
And so what allowed those, or I won't even say allowed, what brought up those tough conversations in the house, right? Thankfully, I have a wife who's very patient and supports
solid
and trust and trust the decisions that I make. I know, right? Shout out to you. And the decisions that I make as the leader of the home. But yeah, man. So that's the time. That's the time.
Okay. I'll take it.
Hey, I will say this: in 2023, we will continue to unpack that more and more.
Oh yeah. Oh no, for sure. I feel like now. So for those of you who've been watching with us consistently, we appreciate you. I think this is episode 29 or 30.
Yeah, this would be 30.
30. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is episode 30. Man,
Crazy.
right? That's crazy. So, that's what is it? And there's 4. So that's almost, we've been at this for what, 3-ish,
November.
3 months?
Yeah.
3.5 months?
Yeah. So, and
It
real
feels
quick,
like longer.
I will. Yeah. So we started in November. We launched our first episode in November, the pilot. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that kind of I wanted to bring this up because as you mentioned that the word consistency popped up.
Mm.
And I will say that in our reconnection of building our relationship, one of the reasons that I appreciate you is because you've helped me to remain consistent, right? Get back to being consistent and then showing me that when you are consistent, that consistency ties into the growth.
Ofo.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean just looking at the black backboard curtain that we had,
Still got it,
in
by
the
the way, for
pilot
nostalgia.
episode to where we are now. And like I said, I just wanted to publicly say that I appreciate you, brother, for the consistent push.
Hey, man, each one teach one, man. I appreciate you being steady with me, and that's like, and so when you talk about priorities, I know we've mentioned this on previous podcasts before, but like this podcast was a priority to both of us in our own ways.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the things that was a big priority for me, and we've talked about this, boundaries and stuff like that too, is I don't just want to be on a podcast. I want to be on a podcast with a partner who never gives me an excuse. We can have clear communication about what the expectations are, and somebody that enjoys it as much as I do.
Yeah. I'm in the trenches, brother.
But that's the thing, right? Like, I think too many times, in this like season of my life, I'm realizing more and more, and the way that I move and the way that I operate and the way that I communicate is, I'm so big on protecting my energy now, because I'm an excited guy. Everyone knows me, like, oh, Cam got all the energy in the world, and I do. But also, what happens is, because I want to share my energy with the world, there are people who will take advantage of it, right? and that's especially hard for people like you and I who enjoy giving our energy for the world, to change the world. Michael Jackson, make it a better place.
That was my fifth grade graduation song, by the way. Anyway.
Oh God. See, I don't understand how people remember that stuff, and maybe that's and that I guess could potentially be a causality of me moving around so much as a kid. Like I don't remember things like that. Like people are like, oh yeah, my 4th grade teacher's name. And I'm like, bro, I got like one friend from the 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple of like very singular moments that I remember. But other than that, like,
I got a lot of trauma, man. I got a lot of childhood trauma. That song is connected to. That's how I remember that.
Oh, okay. He's like, one of the teachers fell over. She hit a candle. The stage lit on fire. They got evacuated. it was a whole thing. But that's a big thing, man. Like that, like protecting your energy and like really, I was on the phone call with a friend earlier, and we were talking about some things, and realistically, the situation that they're in is kind of a lose. So the way that they put it was, this is a lose terrible type situation. So I'm either going to lose, I'm going to double lose, or it's just going to be really bad. So
I would like to park there real quick.
No parallel.
I want to, bro. I mean, because, and so again, this is just my perspective, and I believe that life is about perspective. Now, I mean, obviously, no judgment on anyone that views it, but I would challenge anyone who is viewing life as a lose-lose worst or whatever, however you put it, situation is like when you really unpack it, is it like, is there like, where do you find the win? I think for me, it would be like just kind of putting that on the table. Like if any of our listeners, if that is your kind of mindset, is I would challenge you to find where the potential win is within the lose-lose battle.
For sure.
So anyway, go ahead.
No, I feel you. And like, and I will say I didn't do the whole find the win thing, but I was definitely like, as I've talked about before, is I'm very big on this is probably a sign from the universe then. Because this isn't something where it's like, oh, throw more money at it and you could potentially fix it. This isn't something where it's like, oh, give a little bit more effort and you could be on top. This is honestly probably one of the most legitimate, like, someone's losing in this situation no matter what. But that's one of the as I unpacked it with them, I was just like, honestly, kind of sounds like the universe is giving you an out of this particular situation, because
which could be the win.
And that's what I mean. And so I was like, in retrospect, it might be a curveball for you. I know that, I have been the universe has thrown me some alley-oops, and some people are like, oh, that sounds terrible. And I'm like, nope. I took it as the alley-oop it was and dunked that ish. And then, my life's been better since. But then again, we're not your average folk.
Yeah. So in fairness, I often have to remind myself that as well. Like, just where we're at, just mentally, which require growth, right? I think a little part of me have always been this way as far as, optimistic and
for sure,
and hard work and have a will to succeed.
You gotta love yourself a certain amount to truly be like, to just not let life beat you down.
100%.
Like, and have that, we all cry, we all get upset, like, life, I think that sometimes people think that life is all, like, people have called me Ted Lasso before. Have you ever watched that show?
No, I was about to ask you, why is that?
Okay, so small premise of the show, it's a guy who is a college football coach in America, like championship winning football coach, and then he takes a job to be a soccer coach in Europe, but knows nothing about soccer. But they hired him because his dynamic off the field, not because what he can do on the field. And so, but anyways, he's just positive all the time. No matter what you say to him, they'd be like, "Oh, Ted, you stink today." He'd be like, "Well, my mom was said stink," like, he's just that guy.
Gotcha.
And so I've been called that before. And so, but, towards the end of the first season, like, dude has a massive breakdown. And someone's just like, well, I thought everything was just all sunshine and rainbows. And he's like, nah, it was not. I just was always like this. And it had to do with something like with his dad. And so that's why, he was kind of like, oh, I'm just always optimistic because of this and the third. And so, but like, his life was like crashing down around him. And so one thing I've never done, though, is like, I've never acted as if everything's okay. And I think that's what's kind of saved me from having any of those things. Right. But like, one of the things to consider, like you said, is when your mindset's different, in my opinion, you just kind of have to love yourself a little bit more than the average person, I think, to be able to like snap yourself out of it. Right.
Sure. And
not necessarily needing other people to do it for you.
Yeah, which requires you to be still with yourself. So yeah. And
so I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, my guy himself, and that was something we talked about because he actually asked me about your and I relationship. He was like, how? He's like, you always give me like bits and pieces, but he's like, how did you guys meet? But I ran him through the whole story, and we worked together before I left the Air Force, and one of the things that he said was that when I left, people was talking shit, and so they were just like, oh, your buddy Cam, and he's like, yeah, he is my friend. Like, you think just because he leaves all of a sudden he's not my friend? Like, I don't have any beef with him, bro. And you know, realistically, like you guys can say what you want, but like he did work and he did it with a smile on his face. Like ain't none of y'all there's four of you guys here and none of you have replaced the workload that he did and or had a smile on your face while you did it. And he's like, and that's what we're talking about on the phone is realistically, you just got to be a different breed.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that breed a lot of times will attract haters.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I don't know if you've ever had a hater because I feel like everyone just loves Glenn, but like I don't had a mass amount of haters, and like I'll be honest, it used to bother me a lot. I want everyone to like me. I'm like, man, I just want to do a good job, be friends with everybody, and I got to a point where I was just like, nope. Like I can't put my energy into if you like me or not because like I know that I'm a good person. I know that I treat people with respect and I do whatever I can to help people. So there should be nothing else that I need to do for you to like me because if you don't, then like you're the problem.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm sure I've had and have haters.
If you're one of Glenn's haters, contact me anonymously. I want to hear it.
Hey, you know, the only thing I'll say with that, like, as long as you don't, touch my family, we good. You can
Facts.
feel how you want to feel. It ain't going to change the, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I
Yeah.
got a solid circle. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's all good. So,
Mm-hmm. All right.
yeah, I
Well,
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I'm glad we kind of dove into this a little bit, you know, just a deeper conversation than just the thoughts in the car.
I feel like I talked a lot more this one.
Hey, you did, but it was intentional. I was
I'm
here. To,
sure.
I was here to interview you. No,
Oh God,
I'm just
it
kidding.
would be like that.
No.
So yeah. So your final thoughts. You get final thoughts now.
Cool. Appreciate it. First and foremost, Cam, I appreciate you expanding and joining me today. No, I'm just kidding. The final thoughts to our listeners, our viewers. First and foremost, again, just want to say again, appreciate you guys tuning in. The desires that dictate our priorities. I would say get very clear on what your priorities are, and make sure that the priorities they will shape your choices.
Mm-hmm.
So be very aware of what your choices are,
Mm-hmm.
and then those choices will determine your actions, right? And so if you look at your actions and then you backwards map it to your choices, the backwards map it to your priorities,
Yep.
all of it will be in alignment. And so if you're looking to figure out, hey, how can I achieve the thing it is that I want to achieve? Look at your milestones, look at your track record, look at your habits, look at your actions. And so with that being said, challenge you guys to keep being aware of yourself. Mental health is, I heard that this is like mental health awareness month. But so the
It's
title,
I mean, with how many awareness months there are, there's like it's like military spouse awareness
yeah.
month, mental health awareness month, Apple awareness month.
Yeah, I feel you. But I'll just
Podcast
close
awareness.
out. I'll just close out with saying, write these words down: desires, priorities, choices, and actions.
Oh, what book was it from, by the way?
I don't remember. I don't even think it was
Oh
from a
wow.
book. I think I came across it like on the internet. Just it was like quotes and different things.
Uh-huh.
And so, like I said, this was probably 2016, 2017.
Oh, we're gonna do something that we don't normally do.
Yeah,
We're gonna look it up.
cool.
What is it? Desires.
Yeah, desires dictate our priorities. I do know who said it. Again, I don't know if this was inside of a book. The first name was Elder.
What is it? Priorities dictate our choices.
Desires
Shape our choices
dictate,
and choices determine our action. Okay, there it is.
yeah, Elder Oaks or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Elder Oaks.
Cool.
Okay, so it's not actually from a book. It's just a quote from this Elder Oaks.
Cool. See, I don't even read books. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
But is that
so? Think so?
anyway, Cam? Guys, thanks for tuning in. Like, love, subscribe, share, give us feedback. We look forward to you guys tuning in and commenting and giving us that feedback. Again, every Tuesday we drop. We look forward to dropping this episode. And if you're just finishing watching or listening, like I said, comment and connect with us. The Elder Perspective on IG, the Elder Perspective on YouTube, and we're on all your YouTube platforms. Thanks to Cam and his technical savviness. But y'all have a good one.
Hey, killed it. See y'all later.
With life, it's so precious and it's so delicate.
Love. Without love, you don't have either of the other two.
Leadership, they flow out you.